my first introduction to theotherapy was quite mind-blowing, actually. A young man who was, as we were told, was dealing with demonic presence and curses on the farm and these types of things. And he was hearing voices and seeing things. He couldn't sleep at night. He went from being a good student, an active young person, involved in sport and these types of things, to now withdrawing from all those, not doing well in school, as a teenager, losing his hair from the stress of it all, and just shadowing my supervisor in theotherapy. We saw that this individual had a lot of relational problems dealing with his father, and it was a very, very unique and intense set of circumstances that this young man was in. And I believe it was 2 meetings with him. The first meeting was just a listening, tell us what's going on. And when we came back the second time, he actually dealt with the relationship with his father in his own heart and his own mind, and he settled that issue. And he went from being a very very passive, quiet, nearly, no, not nearly, he was afraid in the presentation of his personality. And immediately at the end of that second session, he was sat up straight, making eye contact when he chatted with us. And the handshake he gave on the way out was actually a very firm handshake. It was radical. There's no other word to describe it. It was radical, the change that took place. And this is a man that had been dealing with these issues for years, this young fella had been. And just on my own, I went back maybe 6 months later, and again another 3 months after that, just to check to see, because for myself, I wanted to know, was this transformation genuine, or was this just, had kind of an experience, but the problem came back. And after all those months after the fact, his statement to me was, forgiveness is really powerful, isn't it, Sean? And I couldn't believe that, because he knew exactly what had taken place, and the impact of the healing of that was absolutely amazing, and spoke for itself. At that second, I was sold on theotherapy.
And you've seen similar results as you've learned and practiced?
Similar results. The weight of conflict that we carry through our relationships, it impacts everyone. Sometimes it's more dramatic than others, but it's always present. And resolving those core issues will always have an impact on a person. Obviously, the more extreme of an issue they're presenting with, the more radical the change will be. But when an individual finds peace and healing in themselves, it doesn't have to be radical to us. It's radical to them, because the pain they were dealing with is gone. And really, that's what it's about, seeing people overcome issues they're dealing with.
That's right. That's right.
Real help and real answers. So many people that, you meet with people and you sit with them for an hour, sometimes longer, and you don't say a whole lot, but maybe a few things in and around, theotherapeutic philosophy. And the end of the time that you have with them, which as a counselor you feel was very unproductive, they're just blown out of the water because they've been going to secular counselors for 5 years. Some of them struggling with whatever they've been dealing with for 15, 20, 25, their entire lives, some of them. And, and just a few statements, it's so accessible and so real, and it touches the soul and the heart that, it's just amazing to see that.
So what do you think is the difference?
I think the difference is that it speaks directly to the heart. I mean, if we are who we are inside our head and in our hearts, and I think everybody would agree that that's the case, philosophies and doctrines and faiths aside, your real you is inside your mind. Theotherapy goes straight to that place. Instead of finding excuses or prescriptions or exercises to cope, theotherapy goes straight to where the pain is and it eradicates it. Yeah.
And without giving a name, give me an example.
How detailed do you want that to be?
Well, you're being recorded, so whatever.
Okay. I would say just a couple examples would be maybe an individual who is out of work, can barely function, get out of bed, dealing with depression, anxiety, addiction issues, having no real reason why these things are going on. Why am I so angry all the time? These types of things. And in 2 or 3 sessions, the person is completely different. Ultimately, it's one dealing that takes place in those sessions that really made the difference. But then you find this individual has returned back to work, is able to socialize again. The anger is just gone because they realized that it wasn't anger they were carrying around. It was a conflict in a relationship that they were carrying around. And when that was dealt with, the anger just took care of itself and all the problems that came along with it. So that would be maybe one example without being too specific. Is that okay?
So it delivers. The person goes into you for counselling, and they're not functional, and they're on substances that they shouldn't be on, or else they're on prescribed substances, and they go 2 or 3 sessions with you practicing theotherapy, and you're saying that they're free of that core issue, and they're functional again. They're pretty much off the substances, and they're moving on from medication to some degree anyway. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah. And even in regard to that, and there would be other circumstances where maybe an individual has been 15, 20 years on antidepressants of different types, and the GPs and doctors doing their best to try and find a medical cure for these things, mixing and matching drugs all the time and trying to find the magic combination to solve the problem. And the same story again would hold true, is that a lot of these issues are rooted in conflict from relationships that have been carried around for years. And the weight of that has the knock-on effect in our minds, which then affects our bodies. And when that's taken care of, there's individuals then who have come off their medication altogether after being on
you told them to go off
medication,
or?
I'm sorry?
Is that because you told them to go off medication?
No, as a matter of fact, I don't address the medical issue altogether, because I'm not a medical doctor, but I do know relationships and how they affect the human heart, and how the human heart can affect human health is apparent as well. And just of their own volition, you might find an individual who would say, I just don't think I'm depressed anymore, without talking to me about this, without talking to their doctor about this, and they just come off the medicine altogether. And there was one particular instance, after about 6 months, it was revealed to me that they still had not revealed it to their doctor that they were 6 months off their medicine and had 0 problems.
Yeah, because it's not advisable to go off medication by your own. You need medical support to do that, but
And and it would be advisable, especially after being on any medicine that long, that if you were going to come off of them, that you would slowly ease your way off them instead of just cold turkey and flush the bottle. But that's what took place maybe in an individual's life that was just so impacted, because theotherapy it's that effective and that accessible. And I suppose that's what I mean by that, just that it comes right to where you are, and it hits the root issue and the core issues that have been there all along, that most people just never took the time to really consider how much it's had an impact on them. And that's what you hear. And as I was saying, that's a lot of what I have heard anyway, is that there is hope and there's solution, and there is an end in sight with theotherapy. But with other types of therapy, they're okay to help you get through the day. But the resolution at the end, the hope those types of therapy offer are, I can make it to the end of the day, but tomorrow I'm going to have to fight this battle again. And the hope theotherapy offers is, let's just end the battle.
Raise up a people, holy and free, hearts with a vision like unto thee, souls that would rather die than give in, lives with a passion, victory to win. Spirit divine, oh, quicken us now, while in thy presence humbly we bow. Set all our hearts ablaze with thy love. Teach us the secret of life.